Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Ion Radio. I am John. I'm going to wait for chat to catch up with where I am in real time to tell me if they can hear me and that there's sound. But until then, I'm going to just keep talking. So welcome to Backseat Admiral. This is December 6, 2021, and we're going to be going over episode 1 of season 3. This is an exciting episode that Ken and I both want to make lots of changes to our fleet after playing it. So hopefully everyone out there is having a good night. Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you, James. And thank you, B Danger, as well. This is the start of season 3. I can't believe we're actually into season 3 already. Let me adjust that down just a little bit. But this episode did not go how Ken and I had planned it at all. We both had different strategies in our mind, and then the game, the dice, completely changed what we actually were able to do in this game. So there's a lot to talk about. A few quick reminders of different things that are going to be happening soon is that for those of you that don't know, Ken and I are gathering fleets for our This Is Madness tournament that just so happens to be in the month of March. Don't know why. And starting tomorrow will be the last week for Patreons. So we're going to be opening up to our lowest tier Patreons. And then after that, we'll be releasing it to the wider public for fleet submission. So we're really excited about what people are going to send us. And there will be announcements of such. Basically, get your fleets to Ken when the announcements made that things go public. Another thing just to note now is that after looking at statistics and things like that and realizing that both Christmas and New Year's will be on our normal Friday releases, we're going to just take the 2 weeks off at the end of December from releasing and then just jump right back into things as soon as January comes back. This gives us time to be with our families and you guys time to be with your families. And just a heads up, we're just going to take those 2 weeks off of releasing. So let's dive into it now. What we have for tonight. So we had an interesting game. These are kind of like the sidekick men, if you would, but leaders of both their fleets. So you have Yularen, who is always there commanding the Venator under like Obi-Wan and Anakin and everything like that. Then you have Jerjerrod, who is just a Moff trying to double his efforts because the Emperor was coming. This is the opener for our season 3, and I played Jerjerrod. So here's my fleet. I based this fleet off of what started Two Ship, or one of the first iterations of Two Ship. I don't know this player personally, so I'm not going to name names. But I believe he's out of Indiana, so I've actually played him quite a bit or been around him at different tournaments. He sometimes would come up to the Chicago tournament, and when I went down to Indy for tournaments, he would be there, or Gen Con and things like that. He started this actually before Price really was a thing, and before like Two Ship was really a thing. He obviously had more aces involved than what we're allowed now, so that greatly changes how this fleet plays. But to break it down, you have an Imperial 2 Star Destroyer with Moff Jerjerrod. Jerjerrod is there because with like a nav dial on an Imperial 2, like it can just turn all the way around and can be anywhere that you want it to be on the board at any time. I added Commander Vanto in there because I just think he's so vital to powering ISDs nowadays with everything requiring you to have a token. I put gunnery teams on it, And hardened bulkheads was kind of like one of those wild card picks that I put on this ship. Just in case if I ran into a fleet of smaller ships, I could just, do like a weird, crazy turn, ram it, and then fall back and try to be in a good position. Wasn't necessary. And electronic countermeasures. So for this ship, I would make a lot of changes. For those of you that for sure have seen the game, and you probably should watch our games before listening to Backseat because I spoil everything. I would completely switch out the upgrades on this ship. Oddly enough, I would recommend saying I would drop gunnery teams and harden bulkheads. And some of you might be like, that's really weird. Why would you drop gunnery teams? And the reason for that is that with Moff Jerjeron, I can easily get into a double arc. And if I'm double arcing the same ship, I might as well shoot the same ship to burn through tokens and everything like that. With gunnery teams no longer being needed, Commander Vanto can do squadrons, or you can do nav, or you can do engineering, so I can always be using my electronic countermeasures. So it just opens up some versatility there. And then the more I thought about them, the more I'm like, I would rather just get my ship out of danger by doing a maneuver than using hardened bulkheads. So hardened bulkheads isn't really needed. If I'm going to kill something with ram damage, it's going to be a guaranteed kill with ram damage instead of like barely nicking them down. Like, I don't really want to be stuck. I want to be able to move, because that's where the power of this fleet lies, is the ability to make your Imperial Star Destroyer spin in circles. So I would get rid of hardened bulkheads and I would add leading shots. And the fact that I rolled 10 dice in and got, I think, a grand total of 2 damage in this last game really screams, hey, you need leading shots for this fleet. So I would definitely take leading shots, because if those attacks actually did any damage, it would have greatly changed how I would have played out the end of this game, which is I will talk about when we go more in depth of how the game played. And then I would probably add on here, I have it written down just in case. XI7 turbo lasers, because I think it's a great card, and then I don't have to worry about getting accuracies, and then I can just use leading shots to get everything. And as long as I get 1 accuracy, block the brace, I don't care if you redirect, and then pump in damage. And then I would decrease my bid by 4 points to add in local fire control. So the idea is, if I'm hunting your flagship, for example, this would be Ken's his Venator. He shoots me. I'll use my salvo, because you would replace your contain, because you don't really need a contain. And I would shoot with a salvo back at him. It's pretty powerful at blue range. That's a red and 2 blues. That's pretty good. And then I would try to double arc it, so then this ship could theoretically get 3 attacks into the same hull zone on an enemy ship. And then I really don't need gunnery teams, because I can just like focus fire in on a ship. And it would only increase my bid by 4 points to be a grand total of 390, which is respectable. And if I really, really, really needed a bid, I would then drop XI7s, giving me then a 6-point bid, bringing me down to 384, which is like a guaranteed first place, unless someone's like pretty far into like the 80/70 range, which I don't think we're seeing as much of anymore, unless you really want to be second player. A lot of times people are bidding for second player, but I want to be first player. So if you're bidding really high for second player, I don't care. So that's how I would change this Star Destroyer, and I think it would be able to be run way more efficiently, because I could then just straight do nav to make sure that I have the maneuverability to get anywhere I want. And then with Commander Vanto, I can just take engineering. And if I already have an engineering token, I can take a squadron token or concentrate fire to reroll. Like, it just gives me a lot of options that I felt like I didn't have in this game. And it would have leading shots for me, so that I could reroll the horrendous, like, I'm normally used to bad dice rolls, but this was like extra bad, which is kind of crazy. So those are the changes I would make to this Imperial 2 Star Destroyer. which leaves it at pretty much the same cost, but gives me more versatility for actually how I would want to play it in this game. Next ship is a Quasar 2 class cruiser carrier, which I think is a dumb name, but whatever. It has Captain Brunson to help keep it alive. Ruthless strategists. I will get back to this in a second. Flight controllers, because it's a Quasar, you want to add extra blue dice to everything you're doing. Boosted comms, so you can reach really far and activate squadrons. And then Squall, so that my slower squadrons, I can start moving. If they're not engaged, I can just slide them across the table toward wherever the enemy is. So let's get back to Ruthless now. Ruthless with a red dice. I don't need that red dice to hit to be able to apply 1 damage to a squadron. Now, it is risky with me having all aces, pretty much, or specialized squadrons that are very expensive to bring Ruthless. But if you can guarantee that you'll be able to get a kill, applying 1 damage to your fighter instead of taking a full-on attacks by those fighters is a good trade. And just having it there as an option, I think is important. And if you decide that you don't want Ruthless, but you do want local fire control, you could just swap that out and then you would stay at the 386 for bid. So you have options. I would leave it how it is because it's just a little bit more versatile that the Quasar can come in and finish off a squadron that you leave at 1. Considering like Bubba Fett can also do that. Like you can like flak it, then when you activate Bubba, it just kills it. Which is a great little combo piece, and it just gives you options. And options are good. So the Quasar 2 has more attack dice. It has red dice, so you can shoot at a little bit farther range, which you really don't want it in combat, but Jared Gerard pretty much guarantees that it can get anywhere that it wants, which is really good for keeping it alive. And then because he can move wherever he wants, that boosted comms with relay means that you can still pretty much activate all of your squadrons all the time. So let's jump into squadrons. This is a ace heavy list and a bomber heavy list. So we have Morna Key, Bubba Fett, Hero of the Empire, Merrick Steele, Jendon, and 2 generic fire sprays. This is a very powerful. If you don't have fighter screens, this will eat you. Like, just completely eat you alive. Morna Key can pretty much get guaranteed 3 damage against a ship every time she attacks. Bubba Fett with Bomber, Black, and Blue is crazy powerful. And then Marek Steele is pretty much guaranteed 2 damage every time he attacks. And then Colonel Jendon says, whichever one of those you thought went the best, do it again. So theoretically, output for fighters is, let's just say you double Morna, because that's usually the best choice. So that's 3, 6 damage. Bubba Fett rolling really, really well will be 3 more damage with crits. So now you're at 9 damage. Then Merrick Steele is 2 more damage with crits. So you're at 11 damage with crits. And then if you could get the 2 fire sprays in there with Bomber 2, you could have 4 more damage with crits. So you're at 15 damage with crits per turn if they have no fighters. That's like an entire ship just gone. And that's not even taking into account that your ships can be attacking. So, perfect world. ISD salvos you, double arcs you, moves on. Whatever's left of your shields, very, very little, the fighters then move in and they just go into that hull zone and kill a ship. Because 15 damage on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacks, you probably only have 1 brace, so you only can brace that down once. So that's just pure damage that will be going into you. It's really, really good. And then when you look at it as an anti-fighter, Ken brought one of the tankiest fighter groups that you can possibly bring. 7 health each, so he had 35 health plus Ahsoka, plus he was healing. That's a lot of health to chew through, and this did it very, very efficiently. Especially with flight controllers. Like, Boba Fett's auto damage was beautiful. I really like that. And the fire sprays with flight controllers being brought up to 4 dice is very, very powerful as well. Another thing to mention is that Morna's rogue, Boba Fett's rogue, and both the fire sprays are rogues. So I have more rogue in this list than I don't. And because of that, if I really, really needed to, I could have my Quasar do something completely different, like navigate, so then I really can turn and maneuver the Quasar with Gergerod to get out of harm to save the ship, while my squadrons still don't really lose any efficiency because they're able to move around and attack and do everything that they need to do still at the end of the turn. But if you really wanted to change how this fighter spread is, I do have some other options for you, which plays into the whole. Like, this is a pretty versatile thing. So what I would recommend doing, if you're going to change this up a little bit, is dropping Morna Key, which seems crazy, I know, because she's really, really good. But instead, this would be, so this is what I would say is the anti-ship build. The next one that I'm going to be suggesting is more of an anti-squadron build. Like, it will kill things very, very fast. And that is to swap out Morna Key for Mauler and Saber Squadron. Saber Squadron with Colonel Jendon is amazing because you can snipe something twice with flight controllers, so that's 5 dice, then 4 dice snipe with Swarm. Kills things very, very fast. Like, that is what I needed to really wipe out Ahsoka without taking all that extra, basically guaranteed 2 damage a turn. And then Mauler splash damages. So think about this. If you were to go up against an ace heavy list, like an Imperial Sloan ace list, right, with this, what happens is they move in or whatever. Let's just say that we do the same basic thing, that we have a little standoff. And I get to activate first because I'm first player. What you do is you move your fighters in and you just attack everything once. And then you move Mithril in just the edge to guarantee kill things. Or at the end of the turn. So you move in, you attack everything kind of once and whittle things down to like 1-2 health. Then you Ruthless. I'll take 1 damage to give myself, or give the opponent, Scatter Ace a damage. Like a Fire Spray. It's going to die probably in 1 salvo against Sloan anyway. So I'll take that 1 damage on one of my Fire Sprays. So now that I'm at 5, that's a great trade for me. And then Bubba just automatically kills him at the beginning of the turn. And Mauler, you can move during the squadron phase to just touch someone, kill them, and then the next squadron phase, you can move him somewhere else and splash damage again. So you could just like jump him around splash damaging, and then guarantee killing things with Boba Fett the next turn. With Ruthless, so Bubba does a damage, Mithril does a damage, Ruthless does a damage. You don't even have to attack the squadron, it's dead. Perfect. And then you have Saber to go in and deal with like the really pesky counter people. That's the way I would change this if I wanted to drop Morna Key and add 2 more fighters. I think that would probably be a little bit more effective, and then you could just like double down on Boba Fett, Steel, and the Fire Sprays being able to go into ships. So you lose some anti-ship, but you gain a lot of anti-squadron. So it's a trade-off, but it might be a good trade-off. I would have to experiment with it. The problem is, like, I really want to play this list like a couple times in a row. I don't know if Ken really wants to face it a couple times in a row, though. So, what else is interesting is that with getting rid of gunnery teams, I can change my objectives from Station Assault, Contested Outpost, Superior Positions to add Advanced Gunnery in. And you really don't want to give an ISD to Advanced Gunnery, because then it just melts into you. Contested Outpost means I just sit there and you have to come into the Angry Bees and I get points for it. And then Superior Positions, I can then put myself wherever I want. And then I move all these great rolling, like basically auto damage fighters behind you. And then I just churn tokens until you're dead. So that's terrible to make me go second player. It opens up a lot of options. So I really like this list, and like I said, I would probably play it in the future. It was just a fun list to play. It is very mentally exhausting because where your fighters are really, really matters. So you have to be very careful how you're moving, and it just becomes like this weird chess game of, okay, Bubba's only engaged with this person, so he can kill that person, then he can move over here and then do the same thing again. So let's go on to Ken's fleet. Ken's fleet is Yularen, and I actually think Yularen is probably the hardest commander for the Republic to use. He has Yularen on a Venator 2. For those of you that don't know, basically what Yularen does is when you spend a squadron command token, it gives you an additional squadron. And then also it unlocks for every ship a new repair ability that it allows you to heal squadrons at distance 1 to 3. Which you saw Ken do and keep Ahsoka alive for a couple turns more than she deserved to be around. So on this build, Ken has Flight Commander. And I think that was mainly due to the objectives that he chose. So you could do Fighter Ambush, move, and then move them. Which I get. I'm not a big fan of Flight Commander, so I probably wouldn't include it in my list. But it is there as an option. And he has Flight Controllers. And I've said this before. I really feel that Flight Controllers is already a really good card. But I feel like the newer clone factions really, really need it to increase where their dice are, because a lot of them have this red dice, which I just don't count as damage, so they need that extra dice to really get up to like 3 or 4 dice in their attack pool. Boosted comms, it's good. You have one big flagship that you want to try to activate everything with, and it has a far reach then. Electronic countermeasures, it's decent. Personally, I'm a fan of using thermal shields on Venators and the Clone Wars airships, but it honestly, mileage varies. It depends on who you're facing. I think that thermal shields are better against, obviously, black dice ships, better against onagers, and better against clone-era ships on clone-era ships, while ECM is better against the Rebellion and the Imperial ships as a whole. So like being able to ignore the fact that ISDs roll 4 blue dice, ISD2s roll 4 blue dice at medium range, which basically will be, here's a accuracy, no brace. It allows you to do that, so mileage varies. And then Resolute, which is able to get tokens, then you can power Yularen. It just kind of goes together. So then it's easier to do instead of having to have something pass tokens to you. So I like this ship. What I would change on it, it was probably flipped to thermal shields, but mileage varies, so it doesn't matter. And I would probably drop Flight Commander for pretty much anything else. Because you're not dropping the fighters off with this, you don't necessarily need to move to be able to do that. The next ship is an Acclimator 1 assault ship. It has Barris, who I think is actually pretty good on Acclimators, assault concussion missiles, swivel mount batteries, and Novuta B. So after the game, Ken and I talked about this, and if you were to change anything major in this fleet, it would be this ship particular. And I think, so my interpretation of this is this ship doesn't know what it wants to be. It has Novuta B, so it's like, yes, I want to push squadrons. But then it has swivel mount and has assault concussion, which makes it into a gunship. So is it a gunship? Or is it a squadron pusher? Because I don't know. It doesn't either. And the reason for that is this is your squadron pusher right here. It's this way on this screen. Because it has flight controllers and boosted comms and everything else that you want to do with squadrons. It has token abilities with Admiral Yularen. This is what you want to be activating your squadrons, not this ship. Because what this ship wants to do is it wants to be concentrating fire so it can add black dice at range in a squadron build. Ken only has a total of 6 squadrons, so you don't really even need Yularen on the ship to be able to do that. So if it's either Yularen is on this capital ship and he's doing exactly what he needs to do, or you need to switch out this capital ship for something else, and in that case you almost want to bend one, and then you get to the same squadron value with the ability of you using Yularen, but you're saving points overall, and then you're adding, because I think it has 2 offensive retrofit slots, which will allow you to do like boosted comms and then expanded hangars. So there's just not enough fighters really to have both. And you don't really want to be in a position that one's doing anti-squadron, because that's what that Venator's better doing with the flight controllers, and then this goes against ships. Like, at what point do you start, because they're command stack 3, doing both? And what if you never get to the point that you're going to be able to attack ships? How do you know that the acclimator is going to be 1 in range, 2 have commands ready to do that? So this ship shouldn't necessarily be here. But there is a better alternative, and it plays very well into how Yularen works, which is this ship. This is a Pelta-class transport frigate. It has comms net, so if you want to, and if it's out of range or do anything, it can throw stuff to the Venator. And then it has the TB-73 title, which is Ken decided to use. This is my preferred title of the ships. Except in this fleet, I can actually understand why the other one would be useful. And it allows you to get an extra evade. So let's add up points real fast. This ship costs 52 points. This ship costs 90. So you could bring in 2 Pelta-class transport frigates with no upgrades and just straight up replace this acclimator, which I think is actually a pretty good deal, especially if you're Yularen and you want to be doing engineering to keep your fighters alive. You could increase an entire activation and just have it there to repair. Ken also has 20, or not 20, he has 10 points that he has reserved for a bid, which you could then jump into more fighters or a couple upgrades on both of those Peltas. Or you drop that flight controller and then you just add comms net to both of them, and then you have an additional 2 points a bid, so then you would be at 12 points a bid. That's another option. Or another option on top of that. I'm just keep giving options. You drop the acclimator, you add a Pelta medical frigate. They have defensive retrofit, so then you put the I forgot what the card's called. Give me 1 second. It's one of the newer ones that gives you the salvo token. It is reactive gunner on both of them, so now they have a little bit of a threat because you don't really want to attack them because you're going to be hit by 2 red dice. And then you pour the rest of points into squadrons, because Ken could actually increase his squadron build from here an additional 30 some odd points. So spending about 50 points into a Pelta and adding some upgrades to both the Peltas, and then adding 30 squadron points actually means that Yularen on his big flagship actually has enough squadrons that if they start dying, he can still activate them. And I think that would be really, really cool. I would play that list. Actually, I'll be fair. I've built lists in my head, and that's kind of how I exactly built them already. So that's how I built it. And like, his Pelta actually did really, really good work for keeping his fighters alive. Like, the stupid here's 2 health back for Ahsoka is really aggravating. I think I actually killed Ahsoka like 3 times. Oh man, she just kept coming back and not going away. But then that focuses the list down a certain path. While the acclimator is good as a gunship and it's good as an Eved OB, it doesn't fit into the whole of this fleet. It's just a good ship. But let's take a ship that might be not as good and fit it in, but then optimize how well the fleet works. For fighters, he has Ahsoka, who's annoying, and then 5 Arc 170 starfighters, which are also annoying because they have so much health. They might be slow, but when they get to you, they punch like a truck, and they have bomber, 2 blue bomber, and you can use Yularen and really heal them up. Because more than likely you're not going to be able to kill one out completely with most alpha strikes. Like, that first turn, all my rogues went against something and it left it with 1 health. I did roll poorly, but like, there's the option of if I left it at 1 health and then Ken went, he could heal it with a Pelta with a token by 3 health. That's a lot. You can just heal things up with Yularen if you have it focused on there. That's why I almost lean for the 2 naked Peltas for the 90 points just to replace the acclimator. Because if you hold tokens on you, you could heal a squadron by 3. That's like Ahsoka almost dead to full health in one activation, which is huge. So that's kind of the talk of how Ken and I would both change our fleets. Like, this is a lot of changes that we would make. I don't know what I would add to this list to in fighter-wise if I were to add 30 points. Maybe another ace. Or maybe just 2 V19s. I think that would get it up around 30-ish points. But at that point, you have 8 squadrons, which is pretty good. And then you could use Yularen with a token, because he's at 5, and almost activate all of them all at once, which is what Yularen wants to do. And then the Peltas are just keeping things alive. Like, imagine how annoying it would be if you were fighting V19s that just wouldn't go away, and it lets the arcs then sneak up on you and then just wham with flight controllers into you. Another option is to drop Ahsoka from this, add a different ace, and Luminara. I like Lum. And then put a Ahsoka flight person, like an officer, on the ship, and then you're getting hit with 4 snipe from Arc 170s until they wipe you out, and then they move into range, and then they're rolling 2 blues. It's pretty good. This list is pretty good. Yeah, I like both these lists. So that's it. I'm going to go to chat. If you guys have any questions, thoughts, or comments, let us know and just put it in the chat. I'm going to read through them, answer some questions, then we're going to jump into more of the breakdown of like objectives and how the game actually played out and what we would do or wouldn't do differently if we were to play it again. So let's see who we got here. Maxwell Silver is in Alberta, and he says it's cold there. Yes, we actually had just a temperature drop today, actually. My computer right now tells me that it's 16 degrees out. It is cold, and it is super, super windy. And it's that type of wind that just, like, you could wear a coat, and it just cuts right through you. Like, you don't want to wear, like, snow pants out, but, like, jeans, sweatpants, it doesn't matter. It's like you're not wearing pants. It's just really, really cold. Earlier today, I ended up running out to one of my local game stores. I had pre-ordered everything for the CIS. I'm a huge CIS fan for Legion, and my full order of all the new Legion stuff came out, so I had to go pick it up. And it's in like a very, very dense, like downtown style town with like a train station and everything like that. So you have to like park in a parking garage and then walk to the store. And that was a cold walk. But yeah, I bet it's pretty cold up in Alberta as well. Yep. I think we have the same idea. You probably posted that before I even started talking about it, putting local fire control on it. I'm not necessarily sold on flat guns for the ISD2. It would work, but I actually like blue flak for this fleet because if I really needed to, I could help my bombers and my fighters, because they're really good anti-ship fighters, get free of a squadron ball faster if I have blue flak versus black flak, especially with leading shots, because if I blank out, then I can toss one of the blues, then I can re-roll the other one. So, yeah, that's why I wouldn't add flat guns, but being able to throw the red and 2 blues at long range would be really nice. I just don't know if it's necessarily worth it. We can play this fleet again. I'll come up with something different. Yeah. Ken, do you mean that I can play my fleet again, or we're going to just straight up rematch? Because that's what it looks like Mark wants. He wants to see a rematch of this, which would be interesting. You add extra peltas. I bring extra squadron killing. That would be very interesting. I could talk about how I think the game would have gone if my dice roll didn't happen, so we'll be getting that to a second. Ken, reactive gunners. V19s are good. Really, it's supposed to jump up to 60? Man, that is a degree change. We're going to change 50 degrees. That's crazy. That's a lot of change there. Give me one sec. Yeah, but we're about to get cold. I think that's it for chat for now. So I'm going to dive back into things, and we're going to go over objective choices and just how the game played out in general. Okay, so these are the 3 objectives that Ken allowed me to choose from. Advanced Gunnery, which I really can't take because I have gunnery teams, so that wouldn't make sense. Fighter Ambush, which sounds super, super juicy to me. And Hyperspace Migration, which sounds super, super bad. So the obvious choice for this would be Fighter Ambush. And it does allow Ken to deploy his fighters closer to me, but I don't care. And that is because my Alpha Strike is better than his Alpha Strike. And a lot of times I feel I've seen people fall into this before. Just because you can get your fighters closer to someone doesn't mean you actually want your fighters closer to someone. And Fighter Ambush is actually a penalty in a way for the second player because they can't deploy any of their squadrons until everything else pretty much has hit the table. And because of that, I can then outweight Ken to put down my last ship. And you can really see this if someone has like 4 deployment ship-wise and then like 8 squadrons. Even 3 it hurts because Ken only had 3 deployments. So all of his deployments were down before I had my Quasar down, and then he puts out his fighters. So that hurts him because I get more information then about where his flagships and where his ships are, which I'm cool with. And then I don't know where his fighters are, but I don't care because I'm going to engage them and kill them. And if they're off in nowhere land, I don't care because then I'll just move in and kill his ships. So it's not really a penalty for me. And even with his fighters moving closer to me, I managed to keep my fighters out of range of his fighters. So even if he moved them forward, he couldn't hit me. And then Squall does its thing and can move them closer and then jump them farther forward, which is what's really powerful about Squall. And you score victory points if you can do damage cards to ships. Guess what? I got fire sprays, I got Bubba Fett, and I have Marek Steel, and I had Morna Key. Guess what they're really good at? Giving damage cards to ships. So as soon as I kill out his fighters, I can just move on to ships, and as soon as my ISD knocks out your shields, I'm just churning victory points until you're dead. And that was initially the plan. So that's why I went with that. Not having, like if I were to do my changes to my fleet, not having gunnery teams allows me to take advanced gunnery if I want, and I might do that. But I might not, so it would open up options for me. So let's now look at how deployment went. As you can see, my Quasar's here. It has Brunson, so I want to stay near obstacles, and I can just fly toward the station, use it as cover, and then slip behind the enemy. I'm going to be commanding fighters. It's not really a battleship, so that's what I'm going to do. We're just going to command fighters, sweep around. With Jerjerrod, I can be anywhere I really want to be. My fighter ball starts here, my ISD here, because I really just want to kill his flagship. Like, if I kill his flagship, I win, period. And his other ships won't really, like, they could jump in, but if they jump in, then they're in my bomber range, and my bombers can, my fighters, if I just engaged immediately, like first Alpha Strike in, I can pretty much kill out one of his ships purely. And then I just take that damage for fighters, but it's better, it's a good trade. and then my stuff comes in. His fighters deployed forward, which is slightly more than you could get. Like, so about here's range 2, so he's like at that 3-4 band, which is plenty forward. But if you see how I deploy obstacles with this, I actually deployed all the obstacles I could on my side of the board. And the reason for that is, at this point, go ahead. Put your fighters as close to me as you want. I will hit them right where they are. And then they'll be out of command range for you, which is why Ken probably had Flight Commander on it, so then he could push them, like move a ship and then push them. But that is such a dangerous tactic. Once I played this mission with, I think I've talked about it all the time, my flak wagon it had like demolisher, and someone deployed all of his fighters like right up in my grill. And I'm like, cool, I'll just sit here and flak them until you can actually get into range to command. And they just sat there, and I killed all of his squadrons, which was the main like anti-ship stuff that he had. So with what was left, he wasn't going to be able to kill an ISD. So just be very cautious when you're playing this. Almost like leave an obstacle closer to your side of the table as a way out, or just be prepared to deploy as normal. Okay, so into the next turn, you can see that the Quasars move into the side. ISD is just slowly rolling forward. Again, I got nav commands with it. I can be whatever range I want. I can be pretty much anywhere I want with Gergerod and nav. I have engaged the outskirts of his fighter ball with my rogues, and what that allows me to do is do lots of damage to this guy, and then I should be able to kill it and then move on to other fighters, because at this point, for sure, whoever wins the fighter battle is going to win the game, regardless of really what happens with ships, because the ships aren't going to necessarily be in range. This Quasar is very afraid of this Venator, but they're never going to meet. This Acclimator, as soon as I get to its side, it will never be able to turn and never be able to hit me. And it has swivel mount, which means if I get to its side, it's doing even less damage to me. So as soon as I get to its side, I don't care. It's not going to kill it. So I know that. So I'm going to use it as defense, try to get at long range of it so that I can cancel most of the dice out with Brunson, and then fly past it. And then we're good. So that's pretty much what happens. If you look right here, this turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Quasar first, whoop, get around the Acclimator, avoid that close range nonsense with it, and then just get out of dodge. My fighter ball is slowly just engaging, like it's that chess match of like just positioning something just far enough forward that I can kill what I need to without engaging everything, but then still having stuff there holding his fighters down so they can't move. And to be annoying. It's just an annoying chess match of what can I ping down damage. And this is why having Saber Squadron and Mithril in this list would be super effective at this, because he's while engaged. So I could like throw him on one side of that obstacle and engage the stuff I'm killing over here, and then I just switch him to the other side and then engage stuff over here. And then when Boba Fett activates, he can kill a squad, which then frees him, and then he can just keep doing it. You can just keep plinking damage to everyone. My ISDs, you can already see I'm moving it to line up that nice double arc. And boy, do I get it. So this turn was really the deciding turn of how this game was going to play out. You can see my Quasar is pretty much safe. It's got only the rear arc of this Acclimator, which I'm cool with. Cool, I'll just sit here in the rear arc, not really taking any damage. These two ships are going to be completely out of the game. They might be able to get over here by turn 6 or over here, but my ships are all going to be back in this side of the board, like down, like this area of the board from here on out. So I don't care about these anymore. So all I need to focus on is killing this and his fighters, and this game's done. So I roll in that terrible, terrible double arc into Ken's front, and I think I do maybe like 2 damage on 10 dice, which is just, it's one of the worst rolls I've ever had in my entire life. What I was hoping for was the ability to basically burn out his shields. I really didn't need to do hull damage because they don't really have that much hull, and burn out his shields. If those attacks would have landed, what I would have done differently in the game is, instead of like getting my fighters to kill his fighters then retreating, what I would have done is I would have gotten all my fighters and I would have suicided them into the front of this Venator to gain victory points, because every victory point I gain means that them dying doesn't matter. And then I would kill his flagship, which would give me a ton of points. It's like 150 points. So me trading 130 points of squadrons for his squadron ball and his flagship puts me very far ahead. And then especially while I'm doing that, gaining victory tokens, it would be beautiful. But it didn't work out that way. And I left him with all of his defense tokens and all of his shields left. So that didn't work out well. And as you can see, we decided to call it after that, after this round, because my fighters are all going to survive. Ken's ships are going to survive because I didn't do any damage to it. And my ships are here and they're going to be fine. If that attack went differently, I would have super cranked this ISD right into the back of this, and I would full on gone after all of Ken's ships. But that's not how it worked. And then I would have also moved all of these fighters into the ship to attempt to kill it for points. And if my fighters die, they die, but I'm taking down the flagship. But I just wasn't able to do enough damage with that total terrible roll that I got with my dice doing like no damage. Which is why gunnery teams I don't think is as necessary, because I want to just be able to focus fire down a single ship with my ISD, and then I can turn it around. I don't care. You just whoop. It could honestly, this next turn it could be right here facing this way. With how Gergerod and Navigates work, it's just amazing. Because then it's like 2 joints, click, 1 joint, click, 2 joints, click at speed 3. That's insane. But that's not how it went down. That's why like a rematch would be kind of fun. Like, maybe this time the dice wouldn't do that to me. They probably will, but then I toss one out and leading shot's the shot. So yeah, that's about it. We can look at, let me see where it is. This is I mean, look at this. This got like, if I told you that this ship didn't heal and it got attacked by the front and side arc of an ISD-2 at close range, you would laugh at me. Like, look at this. This isn't what happened. And all the shields from this side, that was Boba Fett coming in and doing that. Not even the ship. Like, this is horrendous. And this is after attacking it at long range, too. Like, ugh. That's horrible. These ships didn't get touched. Wiped out those. And then let's look at mine here. You can see that Morniki barely survived. And the Fire Spray barely survived. Steel's barely alive. But that's why trading out Morna for Mithril and Saber might actually help me get to attacking fighters faster. Or get to attacking ships faster. Because they would be better anti-squadron. And then I wouldn't take all that auto counter damage. So there's things that could do that. And like what I was talking about with Ruthless, like taking 1 damage to myself to guarantee kill you would be useful here, because especially like if you have like a Sloan counter list with interceptors, well, Mithril jumps in 1 damage to everyone. The Quasar Flax, that's another damage to everyone, and if you somewhere in there got a hit, it's dead. And then Boba Fett just finishes something off the next turn. And I think that might be more valuable than Morniki. I would have to try it out, but like in my head it makes sense. But I can't say necessarily that it's better. but like it makes sense in my head. That's how it would be better, and especially with Saber double doing it with Jendon. Like, there's a lot of cool options with that. Let's look at end score because it's not what I expected. It's a very low scoring game. I killed all of Ken's fighters, which it seems like he has a lot more than 98 points of squadrons, but it isn't. It just has really, really healthy fighters, which if you look at that, he nearly has 40 points more that he could dump into fighters if he, dumps the Acclimator and takes a Pelta decked out instead, which might be what you should do. Like, bring a couple V19s. Like, can you get, I think it's just shy of being able to get 3 of them. So you could fiddle with points and dropping arcs and gaining V19s to come up with a very close to 130 point squad ball with this. And he also has 10 extra points that he can play with bid to change where points are going. So it's very easily, you could get to like 130 points with double Pelta or triple Pelta and add more squadrons to it. He only managed to kill the 1 fire spray, but like it doesn't show that everything else is like 1 turn away from dying. Which is why I say if I could suicide all of my squadrons into a shieldless opponent, I would do that. Because let's see, how many did I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in 5 attacks, I could gain, theoretically, 5 tokens because they're almost guaranteed that they would be able to do 1 damage each, which would give me 75 tokens. So it's another attack with Boba Fett or Colonel Jendon. So we'll add 2 more tokens in that just for funds. That would bring me up to 105, which would be a great trade. I'll trade your flagship and get 105 tokens worth of points. And you can have my squadron ball. It's yours. I think that would be what I would do. But I didn't knock out the shields, which at that point, the trading value of I won't be able to punch in enough damage with you Ken having full defense tokens and having shields left. Like, this isn't going to work. The point ratio, the breaking point to go even isn't there unless I wiped out his shields and his defense tokens, which I didn't. So that's about it for that. I'm going to jump to chat. So if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, things like that, let me know, and then I'll hit some announcements and things like that afterwards as we move forward. Let's see what we've missed. Grandma Mag, thanks for joining us tonight. Glad you were able to make it. Yes, I think I would have gotten the Venator if I hit it harder. So if we just assume standard damage for rolling and no accuracies even. So let's just say that an ISD should be able to do 6 damage per front arc attack. And then the side arc should do somewhere between 2 to 3. So we'll go with that. Just average. So the first attack, so I don't remember. Hold on, I could actually find out. I have all the damage here. So this is what the Venator looked like before I activated the ISD into it. So that first attack, we'll say we use the front to arc attack. 6 damage. Ken braces it to 3, redirects all of it to the side. This has no shields, 4 on the front. Then I do 3 more damage to it. This is, again, purely average. He does not spend his redirect, and he also does not spend his brace. What that leaves him with is 1 shield on the front, 1 shield on the side, completely open side arc. And then the next turn, I line up the front arc of the ISD again, or side arc. It doesn't really matter. because I could have. I just chose not to ram to do it. So we'll jump to here. So I could have basically maneuvered myself to ram into the ISD, pinning it where it is, like this, giving myself that double arc again, and doing the same thing again. No shields, no defense tokens. Or already spent defense tokens. Then I move in... let's see. So right now we're at 0 and 1 and 1. Then I move all my squadrons into the front. We lead with Morna. Morna rolls in after spending her brace, 3 damage. Do you spend the redirect? If you spend the redirect, you're still taking a hull damage, which gives me 2 points. Ah, yes. I've been pointing to pictures and it's not there. Give me a second and let me go back over that again. Sorry about that, folks. So this is what the Venator looked like before the ISD rolled in its damage. So this is just what it took place. So the ISD, let's say, again, I'll go over it all. 6 damage into the front. Ken spends the brace, it becomes 3 damage. He redirects all 3 damage over to here, wiping out these shields. So these are at 0. This is at 1. This is at 4. Then that side arc comes in, and we'll just say it's 3 damage. Does Ken discard the brace or the redirect for that? No, he does not. He holds on to both tokens. So now this is 1, and this is 1. The next turn, I would line up the shot so that my ISD would have a front arc, or I ram the ship, so then I have that front shot. And then now, because I have that salvo token, I could also hit it. So then the ship has either 1 shield and 1 shield, or no shields. When I go into laying into it with squadrons, what I would do first is I would move Morna key in first and roll in. Because of dice stuff, I either am blocking your brace with an accuracy, or I'm getting 3 damage. We'll say 3 damage. Do you spend out a redirect to redirect and then still take a hull damage and give me a victory point? No, you do not. Do you spend a brace to do it? Maybe. Otherwise, that front hull's down and you have 2 hull damage. That's a lot. And then I do it again with her, so then I burn through all of your tokens before I've even done any ship attacks. And you have no shields. And then Marek Steel comes in and does 2 damage with crits. And then a fire spray comes in and probably does 1.5 points of damage. And then Boba Fett comes in and does 2 points of damage. And then another fire spray comes in. Like, you see what happens. Like, it just chains down. And then Jendon says, do it again the next turn. So, without shields, the ship is dead before the end of the turn just from fighters. And I get a ton of victory points from it. So if that attack was just straight average of 6 damage, and we'll just pretend they're all blanks instead of accuracies, or it was 3 damage in blanks, like let's just say the red came up as just average of 6 damage for the front, 3 damage for the side, the ship is dead from fighters the next turn. And that's not even including attacking it with the Quasar, not even including attacking it with Salvo, not including attacking it with the ISD again. It's just dead from fighters. Now that you can see the picture and how the shields are, that's that's my take on it. But that roll only doing that to it, because this was Boba Fett. This shield damage over here was Boba Fett. So I did 2 damage to the front shields with this front and the side attack of the ISD. It was just game changing too low. So I hope that explains that a little bit. Yeah, pretty much. The Boba Fett did just as much damage to the ISD as the Boba Fett did almost as much damage to the Venator as the ISD did, which is insane. I mean, I think the Venator running into my Star Destroyer did all the hull damage, which is crazy. And Ken already reworked the Yularen list. I think he made most of the changes that I talked about. Oh, that's a really... I should really read a little bit farther. Yeah, double Peltas, man. Pelta's healing with tokens is really good. Actually, you could put that card that I don't like on it, but it would actually be really, really good here. Like, they could feed each other tokens with parts resupply, so then they could heal 3 damage off a fighter every single turn. I might do it that way. Announcement spoilers, yes. Stay tuned. And I got the pictures up for you, so I'll switch back to this. So, let's see. For spoilers, tomorrow, Ken and I are releasing a video for our channel, and the interview is with Admiral Tater from Admiral Tater Shop. And if you haven't noticed in this episode, we have these really, really sweet acrylic token holders that he designed and made for us. And we have some really sweet new range rulers that have ion radio on it. And we got them in black and white, so when Ken and I play, you can always tell... yeah, sorry, Ken, I already did. So you can always tell which of us is now first player and second player. It's like chess. The player with white is first, and the player with black is second. So, like, when you're watching our dice tray, not only are the tokens nicely contained right there, you can tell which of the players' tokens it is, first or second player, based on the token color. And they're really, really cool. So Ken is going to have an interview with him and make some announcements, so you should probably watch that video. It's going to be super, super exciting. My next spoiler is for what our next match is, and that should be another interesting battle. Let me pull it up. So the next battle is going to be Admiral Ozzel versus Mon Mothma. And that is a good game. Both of us are kind of playing MSU list against MSU list, which is difficult. I don't like playing MSU. Ken does. So it's kind of a weird mishmash, and we'll both have a lot of thoughts on that game again for Backseat. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be an exciting match. So those are the two big announcement spoilers for the channel. And then for me, on a personal note, there is a big change that's going to be happening with me. It's one of the reasons why my wife and I had to move. We're expecting. We're going to be having a little baby come into our lives and changing everything up, coming very, very shortly. So I'm super nervous, super excited about that. And Ken and I are trying to get as far ahead of like filming as possible, because a baby is going to change a lot in my life. It's a permanent change, obviously. And what's super exciting is this is just fun. You know how you play music for babies while they're in the womb, and they react and everything like that. The song that he's reacted the most to so far has been Duel of Fates. I played it just kind of as a joke, so it either means it's going to be a really big Star Wars fan or really dislikes Star Wars, and then maybe he's a Star Trek fan. So only time will tell. So if we're still around in I don't know, probably 12-ish years, maybe we get a new player added to the mix. But for sure, my wife and I are excited to announce that, because we're into our third, I say her third trimester now. So baby's gonna come before I even know it. I'm gonna blink, holidays are gonna be gone, and then I'm gonna be a dad, and I'm really, really excited for that. So that's really the big announcement for us. Yeah, I know, Max, my life is going to be over, but it's going to be a good over. Like, I still will be able to do some things that I want, but it's not going to be what I want anymore. It's going to be about my kid. So That's another reason, like, when people are like, hey, are you going to make it to LVO? No, not a chance. There's no way I'm going to be getting on a plane to fly across the country while my wife's, like, coming up on her due date, because I will never forgive myself if I'm out of town when he's born. So, even if I was able to get it off work, because I work that weekend, there's no way that I would be going to that tournament knowing that I could miss out on that. Like, there's not a chance. So, clearly I won't be going to LVO, but I already had said that. But that's really the reason why. I could make trades and I could get the time off to go if I really wanted to, but there's other things in life that are way more important to me right now than going out to play a tournament. Even though playing a tournament's pretty high up on my list of things, it's just not more important than being there for a new member of my family. We're like almost doubling in size. It's crazy. So we're really excited to announce that. And yeah, Ken's saying that season 4 I might be really tired. And victories made on the Vienna Harrison. What Ken's not aware of is that I've worked in pediatric respiratory care for over 10 plus years, so I'm very used to crying babies. So maybe I just have a crying baby in the background and then it distracts Ken even more so. So, like, it's hit or miss here. How I can leverage that baby to my advantage. Yeah, I'm excited for that. So, on that note, I'm going to probably call this episode as an end. We have an interview video coming out. We have a new episode coming out this Friday. I have a new edition coming out in, like, the next month or two. So, really excited for that. Also, just remember that we're going to take the last 2 weeks of December off of releasing videos. There might be a bonus video if we get it done here and there, but from, like, our main stem Armada releases, we're going to take those 2 weeks off because they land on the holidays. And we're going to spend it with our families, and you can spend it with your families too. So on that note, thank you very much for hanging out and spending time with me, and listening to my ramble about how Ken and I, honestly, this game might be one of the games that we discussed the most after the ending of it, because both of us felt like our fleet started to do what we wanted, but then didn't, and we wanted to change, like change entire ships out, which is kind of unheard of a lot of times for us discussing. So until next time, thank you from Ken, who's in the chat, and me, who's John, part of Ion Radio. This is Backseat Admiral, and I will catch you next week.